All right, good evening, listeners. Welcome to Motley Crude, episode 21. This evening, we're going to be discussing CHTT, so the Canhammer Team Tournament, and doing a bit of a list review for all of you guys out there. Before I get to that bit, however, let's do a bit of a hobby roundtable. I'm going to start with you for this one, Andrew.
Still working on all my Necromunda gangs because I have all of them and I'd like to have them all built and painted at some point. So I finished my Gene Stealer cults.
Nice.
And now I built this Goliath gang a while ago, but it was only like a starting list worth of models. So I went back and built and assembled everything else I own for Goliath, and I'm just pounding through those guys so that way I don't have to ever really go back and add more Goliath models to the gang. Also, I got a bunch of Trench Crusade stuff printed.
Nice.
So after this Goliath project, I'll probably tackle them a bit before I go into terrain making hell for CCBB in the
How do
summer.
what do the minis look like? The detail and stuff, are they good?
Yeah, they're really good. They're like, I don't know what you call them. I haven't read the rules yet, but like the brute guys or like the big dudes, like they're way bigger than I thought they would be. Like I thought they'd be kind of, I don't know, maybe twice the size of a regular human model, but they're like this one guy, he's like called the Abomination.
Okay.
He's like dreadnought size, like he's fucking ginormous compared to the regular
Okay.
just like foot people. So it's actually kind of cool. There's like the leader's very big too. He's super tall. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be a cool project, I think.
Nice. And it's the not Nurgle guys that you took, right? Like the
Of
Black
course.
Grail or something? Yeah.
Yeah, the Black Grail, so legally distinct Nurgle.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. Good stuff. On my end, it's been a very quiet hobby period. So what happened is we recorded the last episode. I went on vacation like the week leading up to Easter and stuff. The day after our episode, and I came back the day before we recorded this one. So really not much. I did buy I guess it counts as hobby. I did buy like another Taurus based on the Renegade rules pack. So I made that quick purchase because I only had two original GW Tauruses, and I wanted to get a third one. So I guess that happened. But yeah, basically nothing at all from a hobby perspective. No games played
Model did
either.
you buy?
Just the I think it's Fabizel one.
I was gonna say you
Yeah.
should have picked up the Blood Bowl guy and converted him.
Oh yeah, maybe. But yeah, sure. But it's whatever. It is bought now, so I'll just paint it up.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool, Ryan. I know you've been building some stuff.
Yes. So I've finally finished assembling 28 Empire Halberdiers,
Nice.
which were both a giant pain in the ass to assemble, and an even bigger pain in the ass to make rank up. So that
Yeah,
was good
because
time.
yeah,
I eventually had to start like strategically. It's like basically start like angling up the halberds. So like the front rank guys are almost horizontal, the back rank guys are almost vertical.
yeah.
They work, but uh, so anyway, I got all that done, and then played a game in a bit. I've been busy with the stuff I'm doing for work, so
Yeah.
mostly just that. And then it's just been a lot of like patch 8 Baldur's Gate 3 and since about an hour ago the remake of Oblivion.
Yeah, they dropped that just randomly on you on everybody. I
Correct.
knew there was some smoke for like some rumors, but
Well, it was like announced like 4 days ago, 3 4 days ago, and then they're like, we're gonna have like a thing giving you more information. Oh, by the way, the game's out.
yeah, interesting. Love it.
No
Good.
complaints.
That's good stuff. Did you say you played an old world game or not?
I don't think I've played an old world game in the
Okay,
last
that's fine.
couple.
Yeah,
No.
that's fine. We've all been pretty busy over the last little stretch there. Okay, cool. So let's move on to the main subject of the episode. So, as I mentioned in the introduction segment, we're going to be talking about CHTT. So the Canhammer Team Tournament. We're going to be doing a quick discussion on how the event preparation has been going on Andrew and Ryan's side, because they're both sort of working on it and participating. And then we're going to be talking macro level stuff. And then we're going to be doing what everybody's here for, which is the list review. We'll be, because we don't want to be here for 18 hours, we're going to be reviewing a single list from each team, picked at semi-random. It'll be dealer's choice for whoever's leading off that team. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. So without further ado, let's talk Canhammer Team Tournament really quickly. So Andrew, because you're TOing this event and you're putting it together, what is can you give us a quick recap of what the event's about, like when it's happening, where, how many people, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so Canberra Team Tournament typically is like a 40K WTC event. On the 40K side of things, it's 8-man teams, plus coaches if you want. We've been doing that. I think we worked this out a while ago. I think it's like 10 or 11 years at this point. It started off as a Warhammer 8th Ed Fantasy team tournament, but that quickly died right after we started the event. So we pivoted to 40K. This year is the first year we're trying fantasy again, since we have the old world now. Just to keep things tight, we went with 4-player teams because we weren't really sure, if there's a big enough scene to go like 8-player teams or
Yeah.
even 5-player teams. So this year we just kept it small, kind of based on the terrain I own. So it's 8 4-player teams, and we should have enough terrain and everything to cover that. Just to kind of test the waters, and maybe next year, depending on how this goes, we'll grow a bit.
Awesome.
2 days. 2 days. It's here in Ottawa. We got a really nice venue. Food's included. Kind of like our ethos for making both events that we run as Canhammer is kind of like, what is the cushiest kind of like comfortable event you can. So we try to get like a nice venue, catered meals both days, good prize support, air conditioned hall, parking on site, like all those kind of amenities you'd want for like the best kind of event. Let alone like tight rules and a player's pack and everything. Just kind of like those types of things too. We try to provide to our attendees.
Awesome. And you didn't mention it directly, but it's the first weekend of May, so on the 3rd and 4th, coming up in 2 weekends. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to get right back at you there, Andrew, with another question. So how is, I know we're like 2 weeks away now and you're slammed with work. So how's prep going for the event? And, are you in panic mode at this point, or are things under control?
I mean, not panic mode. Like we had enough time from when we knew we were going to make the event to now, that there wasn't like we've used our time wisely, I guess just to say. Like we announced this just before Christmas. We knew right after CCBB last August we were going to be doing it anyway. So we've just kind of been chipping away at everything since then. Like right now we're just finalizing what the meals will be at the hall. We got a few choices to make. But like I've already reached out to like our 2 sponsors, the main one being Red Dragon. They're going to be doing some stuff for the event, and then Baron of Dice again.
Nice.
We have there's no terrain worries this time around because we're just using our stock from CCBB. So it's been pretty smooth sailing. Like it'll definitely be more hectic for CCBB because I want to make more like tables and things.
Yeah.
But Ryan's been a big help. Like he spearheaded the players pack and basically wrote that himself. So that was like a big load of work like off of my plate that really helped just kind of let me focus on the overall event as opposed to just the old world stuff. So thank you for that, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Right now we're just kind of getting like weird pre-rules questions that we're kind of trying to tackle. But other than that, like things are going super smooth. I'm not really worried about anything right now.
Nice. And so you've taken care of most of the hardware stuff, like the physical aspects of it and the overall like management. Ryan, you've been more on the software side, if I can use those terms of like developing packs and grinding through lists. Like how's that experience been?
It's been fine. So I've been fooling around with like mission design and stuff for ages, and I think we're like 2 months into the game when you and I started bugging Andrew about doing this teams event anyway.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was at CTC last year. Yeah.
yeah, so I had been in various stages of drafting the A teams player pack for a while. So it was over Christmas break. I managed to tidy it up and give it over to Andrew so that he could do what he needed to do with it. And that's where, like, I looked at the inventory of terrain that he had and I tried to build something that used the available resources instead of like me being like, okay, we're gonna have all these tables and then just like giving Andrew a task to do everything. So like that's been fine, and like the rules questions that have been coming in have been like fairly run of the mill, like nothing insanely
Sure.
groundbreaking at this point. Um, so it's been fine. Um, yeah, I don't really have a lot.
Good. No, that's fine. That's totally fine. So let just to hype this up a little bit. Yeah, I'm super happy to be seeing a team event show up in this neck of the woods in this part of North America. We haven't had any like this. I'm not sure that there have been any larger team events, certainly in North America, that have happened at this point. I know that there's a few lined up for the near future, but across the world there, but not up until now. So yeah, I mean this is super cool. I'm unfortunately, as I discussed quickly last episode, not going to be able to make it, which I'm really bummed about. But it's fine. It's for a good reason. So yeah, thanks to the two of you for putting this on. I'm super pumped to see how this turns out. I had a good time looking at the list, which we're going to be discussing later. So that was super interesting, and yeah, I'm just happy, and I hope there's more events like this. There's one next year for sure. Well, not for sure, but I assume there's one next year. And yeah, hopefully we'll see some more across North America. Like Ryan, I know you set the thing up in part at least, but like, what are your thoughts on teams showing up for Old World?
I'm excited. Like so, okay, I'm of two weird minds about teams. I don't really buy into the like it's the greatest way to play tabletop games that's ever existed
Sure.
argument that you get from some people. And then like I've been involved in I was involved in teams play a little bit for Flames of War way back when, but um, I like having a different way to engage with the game, and I think, for example, what Andrew and the Canhammer team have kind of cooked up here in Ottawa, where you have like one premier teams event and one premier singles event,
Hmm.
a city of about 1 million people within a larger region of, you know, uh, 10 to 15 million people, depending on how you draw those boundaries,
Yeah.
um, is kind of like the perfect like balance for it. And but I do hope that like more CHTT type events pop up in like other regions around North America, but not so close as to create like weird friction points.
Yeah.
Um, that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to see teams like it's cool when the teams event is the highlight of the year or one of the highlights of the event calendar. Not like I wouldn't want to see it take over entirely either. So I can get behind that. Andrew, are you pumped to see fantasy back in a teams format?
I mean, I'm just pumped to see fantasy back in general.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, like Ryan, like I'm not. I think teams is cool, but like I'm not one of those people who are like, oh, teams is it, nothing else. I think it's a fun way to play. I think it's a good way to go to an event with friends and sort of share the experience with them. Like I know we've traveled for events sort of together, but like we're still just kind of playing our own games.
Yeah.
Like we're in our own little bubbles, even though like we went together or whatever. So I do enjoy like that aspect where it's like as a team, there's more of that close camaraderie there. But I think it is exciting. At least we're like the first in this region to be doing it. Hopefully we see a bunch more pop up, but I like both ways of playing the game, so
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so moving on from the TOing stuff, let's talk about let's start with a macro level discussion, like the big picture discussion on what we've seen from all the lists in general, like faction representation, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so the first thing I think is important to discuss here is I think the tournament pack had a pretty significant impact on how people ended up building their lists and the format of the event. I'm gonna sell my lead here a little bit before we get to that point on, but I was kind of surprised by a number of lists that I saw. So thinking about that, I think the tournament pack and format had a role to play. I just some things. I'll turn the floor over to you, Andrew, to tell me how like you think players approach this kind of stuff. But just off the top of my head, like the kinds of different, let's call them restrictions that were present in terms of army building for this event is like, if our viewers are not intimately aware, is that firstly, you can only have one of each army per faction or per team, sorry. That includes duplicates that are like armies of infamy related, for instance. Allies and mercenaries are allowed at this event, which is not always the case. It's not the case in most events, at least for allies. You cannot duplicate magic items across the 4 lists that you're bringing. So, for instance, you only get 1 talisman of protection. The rule of 3 is in play if your book does not have an overriding restriction. So, if your book says 1 to 3 per 1,000 points in a 2,000 point list, you could bring 6 of an item, not 3. And then lastly, I think secondary objectives also played a role in how people design their lists, and in particular with regards to like secondary scoring with banner requirements and all that kind of stuff. So just, yeah, I've listed those. Like, Andrew, how do you think players approach this set of different restrictions, and how did it like impact, or did you see any impact from those on the armies that you'd compared to what you'd see in a single player event?
I think it impacted some people's thought process, although like having gone through the list too, a lot of I'm also seeing a lot of sort of regular, like I guess you'd call single player lists as well. You know, certain things are good no matter what kind of the format is. So I'm torn. Like it's hard for me to look at a list and see someone's like thought process on why they took those choices. Maybe Ryan's better suited to answer that just because
Yeah,
he both made all the missions and like sort of the comp for this. So maybe he has a better insight onto like the choices people made. Because for me, it's just like, oh, that's a cool list. Like I can see kind of what they're going for. But at the other times, it's like, well, are they really going for specific missions that they're trying to win? Or, I thought going into it, we would see more like big skews. And there's a couple there, but like, I don't think
yeah,
it happened as much as I expected it to.
agreed. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so I guess I can I'll flip this over to Ryan then, and I'll modify the question a little bit, Ryan. Like, as the guy who designed this series of restrictions, like, did you achieve what you set out to do, and are you like surprised by the outcome, or?
Well, I will say the number of banners present in
Yeah,
everyone's list does indicate that part of what I did worked.
sure.
Um,
Yeah,
so from like a so for clarity, like for everyone who hasn't read the mission pack, um, every mission has effectively like a 2-part secondary, and it's usually it's like uh, whoever has more units in the other person's deployment zone by the end of the game, or controls pieces of terrain or whatever. Like it's very positional, for lack of a better term. But usually it's it's an amount of points for having stuff in a place on the table, and then another amount of points for having banners in that place as well. So it was just a way to try to encourage people to take banners,
Mhm.
with kind of a it was costed to try and outweigh the penalty for losing banners in combat.
Yeah.
Um, because a lot of people were skewing away from taking any banners unless they were also taking a magical banner of some sort.
Mhm.
Because they were viewing like +1 combat res versus losing 50 points or giving up 50 points. People weren't seeing that as a fair trade.
Yeah.
So the missions are designed to try and give a little bit more incentive to still include banners and battle standard bearers and things like that. Um, and so, yes, broadly, compared to previous tournaments that I've attended and or helped with, I feel like these lists definitely have more banners in them than other ones I've seen. Um,
Yeah.
at the same time, as Andrew said, there's also a certain amount of like this game's, despite it being the continuation of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, this game's only a year and change old,
Of course.
and
Yeah. Of course.
so there's definitely a certain amount of people brought what they have or what they could beg, borrow, or whatever. Um, like like I'll say that the teams by and large are a lot less optimized than what you'd see in like a long-standing teams kind of metagame, which is
Yeah.
completely to be expected. But like you'll see it as we go through the discussion where like and like I know personally most of the players in almost all of the teams in one
Mhm.
way or another. So it's like looking at each of the teams, I can kind of tell like what level of resourcing each team had to support itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Uh, And so that's fine. But no, like by and large, to sum up, I think the team compositions and the um, contents of the teams supports or kind of went with the activity I was trying to like shape them onto with the mission pack. So like that was the goal. The goal wasn't to force people to take banners. It was the carrot instead of the stick, and it
Yeah.
seems to have kind of worked. Um, whereas like, if you look at the like composition side, the stick side, this event has one of the least restrictive quote unquote comps
Yeah.
of any event short of just running straight out of the book with like no composition.
Yeah.
Um, effectively, the only thing we limit is units that aren't already limited by the army list in some other way, and like team level limits on things like not repeating a faction, including as allies, um, or whatever, what have you, and on non-common magic items. And that one, it's honestly just there because I thought it was fun. Um, I just wanted to see what a world looked like where every single team didn't have 4 war banners. So
Yeah, I think that's a very, very, very good move in teams. Like, yeah, we've all seen enough talismans of protection to last us a lifetime at this point.
exactly. So I thought that was just kind of a nice like if we're gonna do this thing where you have to make a bunch of mutually exclusive choices as a group, let's just take it up a notch and make you make even more mutually exclusive
Yeah,
choices.
That's fun. That's good.
So
Awesome. Can you just for the just so the audience is tracking if they're not going to the event, what is the maximum amount of points that on like worst case scenario or best case scenario there you could get on secondaries on a mission?
give me 2 seconds. I have them pulled up in front of me because I figured this was going to come up. I want to say it was, and it's the same across every mission. If I remember my math, it's 250 victory points.
Okay.
So it was, yeah, it was 250. And so it was designed based on the differential scoring methodology, basically to be able to move you one bracket. So if you got all the second, because the brackets are, you have to win by 100 points to get a victory, and then all of the subsequent brackets are 300 points, it looks like. No, 200 points.
Yeah.
So basically, if you get 250 extra victory points, your 11-9 might become a 12-8, or your draw might become a win type thing.
Nice. Yeah.
It's just meant, it's not meant to like define the game. It's just meant to move the, or you may lose and achieve the secondary and therefore
Win.
drop your opponent's score, which in the grand scheme of a team's event actually matters a lot.
Agreed. Yep. Yeah, because if all four of you are maximizing secondaries and getting 1,000 extra victory points, that's quite meaningful over an 8,000 point potential spread there. So, yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's moving on to the next question here. So let's focus on just specifically list variety and construction. So I'll start with you, Ryan, because it's your pack ultimately. But like, how do you think that the tournament pack came together? Like seeing the tournament pack and the format come together. Did you see that affecting list variety? Like, do you see in this in this rack of 32 different lists? Lists that are completely different than what you tend to see in single events, or again, are you a little bit surprised that there's a lot of single lists being taken?
So I actually thought the lists would be a lot more homogenous than they are.
Okay.
But I'm also chalking some of that up to, like, there's definitely whole teams that are four dudes just like going to an event together.
Yeah.
Not so much like, and that's a perfectly valid like way to do this. But um, like you, as we get through the discussion, like you can see the teams that thought about like, I can pair this into this, like who are thinking about the pairing game. And with that said, 4-player pairings is a bit ham-fisted compared to like 5 to
Eight.
8
Yeah.
player
Yeah.
pairing.
Mhm.
But like you could see how that's playing out. Um, but at the same time, you can also see the teams where they do seem to have some like, okay, I have this army to do this thing. At least I can see that. Um, but anyway, I guess what my ramble is getting at here is I definitely thought there was going to be more like when we originally talked about teams, like Kevin's idea of like almost like hard stat checky type armies that could be thrown at people.
Yeah.
Um, and there's really not.
No.
This
No.
is
There's not.
honestly just like a who's who of singles meta armies in with like little tweaks to account for you know the belief that an army might be able to dodge certain matchups that a
Yeah.
tool normally been brought for.
Yeah.
But at the same time, being the, to use a fancy word like bellwether of the teams, like again, to my knowledge, in terms of North American real people playing in an event at the same time, I think we are the largest and
Yeah.
possibly the first proper teams event. Um, because like again the term teams is thrown around. It's actually like Adepticon doubles as an example.
Yeah.
I think in that case, like people don't even have anything to go off of. So like the lessons learned from this event
Will
will
inform a lot of
shape
yeah.
future teams events, even if the format of those teams events is different, as I know like of
Mhm.
the other events I'm tracking that might be coming up, like bits and pieces of what we've done here are going to be copied or sustained, but not all of it.
Mhm.
But I definitely think like there's not enough corporate knowledge in the community about what works and what doesn't in this type of environment. So I think people made good choices by just bringing the best singles armies that they could make sense of.
Yeah. There's a little bit of the blind leading the blind right now. Nobody has any idea how this is going to shake out, for sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's super interesting. Andrew, do you have any follow ups on that one in terms of list variety?
No, I think Ryan kind of covered it. Like, there's definitely more single player style teams than I expected there would be.
Yeah.
But maybe people just weren't thinking about skew again because this is relatively a new game and a new format of play that we're trying. Maybe people weren't thinking of that. I'm not sure how many of these guys are also in sort of like, let's say, 40k teams meta. I
Yeah.
know some of them are, but it doesn't look like a lot of that sort of, oh, we need to skew one way or another mindset came into this. And maybe that's just because it's a 4-player format as opposed to like an 8-player format. Um, but that's really just speculation on my part. I'm not sure one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't see as many skew lists as I was expecting either. There's a few, we may or may not cover them later, but there are some definite skews out there. But yeah, anyways, we'll get to it in due time. For my part, I'm just going to insert a few comments here there in this one. So in terms of list variety, I saw more. I saw less faction variety than we do in our normal events, right? So there's fewer representation. There's a number of factions that are not there, that are there, like completely absent. And then there's one faction in particular that's basically on every team, which we'll get to in a minute. So that is definitely different than what we see, at least here locally and in our broader region in terms of singles events. So there's that bit. But I did see more variety in terms of like internal list building for the faction than I do normally. So like I see less. I'm going to call them, and I don't mean this in a derogative manner there, but like their lists were a little bit less net listy than what you'd sort of see normally. Everybody or many people bringing the commonly agreed upon best version or something close to of a faction's sort of competitive list. I saw less of that. I saw people experimenting more sort of within their faction choice than I do normally in singles. And I think that's a combination of a few factors. I think the first one, Ryan, you touched upon like 2 questions ago there, is maybe some individuals, I get the feeling, overcompensated or dove too deeply into the secondary scoring system, and took out some, I think, pretty key elements of their army or respective armies in order to add more banners to the list, which my gut feeling is probably won't serve them super well moving forward, but I think is a thing that happened. Secondly, I think you spoke about this, Ryan, a few minutes ago there, but I think like sometimes people were wishing away some bad matchups by saying, "Oh yeah, but this is sure, I can't handle high toughness monsters, for instance, with this list, but this is, instead of putting the tools in, this is a teams event, so I can dodge this matchup and somebody else on my team will take it." But you're not going to get the matchup you want every single game either, and your teammates are going to be pairing. You or your teammates are going to be pairing into things that probably aren't going to work anyways. The the third thing I would say is perhaps there was a little bit of like, so people, as far as I'm concerned, felt definitely more willing to experiment with their list than they do normally, and I think that was informed by, there. If I just look at my own team, which I was supposed to be a part of, the discussion of, okay, who's doing what on the team, and then you sort of have this little, let's call it an echo chamber, develop within the team of like, oh yeah, if you're going to do that, and this is my idea to handle this problem, and people just sort of work their way in rabbit holes, and at the end of the day, like, the list may not be better. You just sort of all collectively push it in some random direction that you agreed upon in the 3 or 4 person Discord chat that you had going on. I would say that's like the third thing. And then the last thing, which also Ryan touched upon earlier, is definitely model availability. I'm sure came into play on a lot of those lists. So if we review your list later and we're like, why are you taking I don't know, Chaos Marauders instead of whatever, and you're like, yeah, I know, guys, I just don't have them, and I don't have them painted, like, that's completely understandable. So yeah, I think all those factors together led to some really interesting list design choices. I thought we were going to have 32 balls to the walls cutthroat lists show up, but my expectations were brought back into line by what we saw. I think there's some good stuff. There's some interesting stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to just keep banging on here.
Kevin,
Yeah.
before we get too much further, I realize, should I explain how pairing for this event works? Because it's going to shape how I talk about stuff later.
Yeah, please do. Please do, for sure.
Okay. So for the sake of this, pairing, 2 teams arrive, their captains are there. They have cards or tokens or what have you, numbered 1 to 4, representing their armies. And ultimately, what's going to happen? They're going to review each other's lists. They're going to get ready. The captains are going to roll off to determine who's Team A and Team B for the sake of going through the list and knowing who A and B is. So Team A is going to put forward an army face down, and Team B is going to do the same. So each one has basically offered an unknown army to the other. They're going to reveal them at the same time. So they both offered an army, and then each team is going to put down 2. So the offered armies are being called defenders in this language, and then the opposing team is going to offer 2 quote unquote attackers. These are all revealed at the same time, so it's all mirrored throughout the process. So at this point in time, you have 1 army with 2 things it could fight. And then the defending army, the original offered army, is going to pick one of the 2 offered armies to fight. But the army that was chosen gets to pick the table the game is played on with prefix table layouts. So ultimately, you have a situation where Team A offers an army, Team B offers 2 armies, Team A picks one of Team B's armies. They're paired off. Same thing has happened with B to A. I realize this is kind of getting ephemeral here. But ultimately, that's how that's going to play out, with then the unoffered armies being paired into each other. So really, the only opportunity to like dodge a pairing is like right at the beginning, where you have control at this point, because there's not enough depth in the pairing process to really get granular. Anyway, I realize it's a thing.
Yeah, that's super helpful, Ryan, because that's what I was kind of hinting at, like having sort of read through this before, and I realize now that not all our listeners may have, and it's like your actual opportunities to not pick the matchup you don't want are very limited, and if you're, there's a bit of a mind game going on between the 2 teams of who they offer up when, but if you sort of read the crystal ball poorly and you put the team that's got bad matchups at the wrong moment to be offered up, there's no way of dodging the matchup like that you don't want at that point. So it's not a foolproof system of saying like, okay, I will make sure I never face like an oops all cav list, right? Like you're probably still going to end up facing is the point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about faction representation. So I mentioned earlier that there was some factions which were sort of excluded altogether. And I conveniently forgot to write that list down, but I think that's so there are no dark off of memory. There are no dark elves. There are no Skaven. There are no ogre players. There are no chaos dwarf players present. And yeah, those are the ones that are not present at all at the tournament. And then we see like a heavy skew on the undead side. So our most present faction for present on 7 teams out of 8 is Tomb Kings, including, I think, a single mortuary cult's Army of Infamy. So 7 out of 8 teams are bringing Tomb Kings to the table. So just going to toot my own horn here for a second when we were talking about faction power. And I think we said, I certainly said, and I think you guys agreed with me that Tomb Kings was the most powerful faction in the game. 7 of these 8 teams definitely seem to agree that they are, or at least worthy of consideration in your 4-man team. The second, then we have a bunch of teams tied at 4 players. So half the teams brought them essentially. So we have vampire counts with 4 players. We have, or 4 teams taking them. Bretonians with 4 teams taking them. Dwarves with 4 teams taking them. Beastmen with 4 again. Orcs and goblins with 4, and then Warriors of Chaos with 4. Of note, Bretts have 2 exiles player, and dwarves have 2 expeditionary force players. Then we have the lesser represented factions at the bottom of the pile there, not far behind the other ones. There we have high elves with 3 players. We have the Empire with 2 players, including a single knightly orders list. We have 1 wood elf and 1 lizardman player. So that is our faction distribution. Before turning this over to Ryan, I'm going to say I am not surprised and surprised in some ways. So I thought I'd see more Bretonian players, definitely. But yeah, they're still present on half the teams. I think Tomb Kings, for me, anyways, is the strongest faction in the game. So it makes sense that if you're trying to do well at this kind of event, they would show up in your stable of armies. They have few bad matchups as an army in general. An army that could score a lot of points. You can build them in a variety of ways. Like they have a super deep bench. So I think they're just almost a no-brainer on a teams list. And then I would say, the 3 other top armies that I would make the perfect 4-man team out of are present in that slew of 4-player representation. So I think Bretonians, like let's say I was making the dream team, would be in there. Warriors of Chaos and Vampire accounts would be in there. So I'm not too surprised to see those numbers up. I am a little bit surprised and sad to see a number of excluded factions, though. So I guess those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Ryan, in terms of faction representation?
Okay. Yeah, seeing that many, like, at the end of the day, differential, in my opinion, makes undead good.
Yeah.
In a game based on getting kill points, being able to not die and also never give up points for fleeing because you can't flee.
Yeah. Big positive.
It's a huge force multiplier. Like there's no getting around that. So I'm not shocked in any way that there's, Tomb Kings on almost every team and then additional vampire counts on of the teams.
Yeah, so they make up like a third of the field between those 2 armies.
Yes. As to Brett's, again, I'm actually shocked that there's only. I'm gonna say it's technically 5 because Sean's high
there's an
elf
ally.
count as a use of Bretonians for the 500-point Falcon Horn.
Sure.
So, but still, only half of the teams, including full Bretonian armies, is interesting because I definitely thought that was going to be a little bit higher. given their ability to just kick people in the face.
Yeah.
And then dwarves. No, there's about the amount of dwarves that I was expecting, and two of them are very much gyrocopters and guns nonsense.
2 massive skew lists. Yeah, and dwarfs.
Yes. Yeah. There's a shocking amount of beastmen, mainly just because there's like only one beastman player in Ottawa, so I'm just not used to seeing them.
Yeah.
Orcs and goblins with like a crazy amount of army variety. Like I think there's an army of like all savage orcs.
There
Which,
is.
now that I
Yeah.
think about it more, is that the guy that I played at CCBB last year?
I couldn't
It's like
tell
the
you. I'm sorry.
like the Mongol themed savage orcs. It's the same guy.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe.
Anyway, so that's a whole thing. Warriors of Chaos, like there were no wolves of the sea. It
No.
was
Yeah.
interesting. Um, and only two of the armies are the like archetypal Warriors of Chaos kind of
Yeah.
competitive army. High elves, again, they're all just kind of high elfy. The Empire armies are wild. I
Yeah.
love
Agreed.
both of these. They're amazing. Um, the Wood Elf army, again, like I'd love to see more Wood Elves, but I also understand that like until they get released properly, they were a niche faction fucking 15 years ago. So it's not like there's a lot
Yeah,
of them. Like,
and competitively have fallen on hard times right now.
correct.
Yeah.
Um, and may do so again, being Forest Dragon and Strength 3 shooting. But
Exactly. Yeah.
and then Lizard
How I
Man, like
describe that
all
list: a dragon in MSU. Yeah.
is 15 Glade Guard MSU.
Fair. Sure. I was looking for a nice way to describe it.
And then Lizard Man is also cool. I again like I wish we saw more of the legacy stuff, but like at the same time, I totally understand. Like I totally get why there's no Skaven armies.
Yeah.
I totally get why there's no Chaos Dwarves because you're basically the only Chaos Dwarf player in a 200-kilometer fucking circle around
Sure.
Ottawa. And you're not here. Um, like I get why there's no ogres.
Yeah.
There's another faction I'm forgetting here. Uh,
Dark elves.
yeah, it's because Andrew's running
Yeah.
the event. So who's going to play
Yeah.
Dark Elf?
It's interesting because like I think this speaks to people just not having all the armies on hand to build the list of their the stable of armies of their dreams, because I think that in a team context, going back to what Andrew was talking about, where people can skew more heavily than they would in singles, I think Chaos Dwarfs and Dark Elves both definitely have a place you can put them in, like your archetypical competitive Dark Elf list with dragons and a bunch of skirmishing shooting, like, works very well in this context. And then if you lean super heavy on toughness, resilient, points denial gameplay that the Chaos Dwarfs can bring, like, also super helpful in a team's context. So but
But at
yeah,
the
I
same
agree with
time,
you. Yeah, so go ahead.
but
Yeah.
but you know what I'm really happy about though? The
What?
fact that we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different factions with multiple different archetypes within them,
Yeah.
instead of just 8 teams that are Tomb Kings, Bretonians, Vampire Counts,
Warriors of
and
Chaos. Yeah.
your choice of Warriors of Chaos or High Elves.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Like, so it's nice to see, Beastmen and Empire and Orcs and Goblins and Wood
Yep.
Elves and Lizard Men, in a universe where, but in theory, that's what Teams is supposed to do. Like, Teams is also the place where the weird, Wood Elf army with a whole bunch of birds can dodge the Falcon Horn and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal when we eventually get to 5 to 8 player teams in the future. But
Agreed. Andrew, any thoughts on your end about faction variety?
Yeah, like it's kind of. I thought we'd see more dwarf players, but like I knew Tube Kings would be overrepresented just because of how good they are, especially in the way tournament play is done. Like I said though, I thought I'd see more dwarves just as like a really skewed sort of points denial list.
Sure.
Or Chaos Dwarves filling that same role because they both do it really well. It's unfortunate that there's not, other than Vampire Counts, which is kind of like the shining star of the Renegade factions. There's not a lot of representation from them. You know,
You're
we
right.
have one Lizardman guy.
Yeah.
That's it. The rest
Yeah.
are all out.
Yeah, they're like a little bit less than a sixth of the field. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of disappointing to see. Um, but again, I guess those armies aren't as popular just because they're not released. And it's hard to get models and stuff for them if you're trying to go like pure GW.
Yeah.
And I worry that that might become the norm and sort of GW gets what they want in the long run, where those things just kind of fade away. Um,
Agreed. Yeah.
but other than that, like there is a fairly solid spread of everything. Like sure, there's only one Wood Elf player, but I think that is also largely in part of them getting a recent nerf that kind of hurt
Yep.
the power list for that faction. And I think people are just trying to re-figure out how to make Wood Elves like super competitive again. Um, I think you can get away with it with just like mass MSU. I remember Seb's list when he was playing, at the beginning of uh, Old World coming out, which was, I don't think he had the sisters in there, and it was still a pretty good list, just with like a mass avoidance and a dragon kind of
Yeah.
walking down the field. So I think Wood Elves still have a place, but I think a lot of people are trying to relearn that army.
Fair.
But yeah, I think it's good. Like we got a good spread of armies here. So yeah, kind of my
Awesome.
thoughts.
Nope, that makes total sense, and that'll change over the next few months as we potentially get 3 armies released. So yeah, that'll for the
Yeah.
next year. I mean, the meta will shift and stuff. Okay, Andrew, why don't you walk us through some of the most common magic items that people are taking across their lists and the teams?
Sure. So right, Kevin set up a small list of the most common magic items here. So coming in at number 1 with 10 of these taken in um the teams, it's the spell familiar. So we didn't actually say this earlier when we're recapping the players pack, but yes, you're limited to 1 magic item per team, but common items, the ones with the little asterisks beside it, can be repeated in the team. So that's why we're seeing 10 spell familiars instead of 4. Or sorry, 8.
Yeah,
Makes sense, I think. People don't like to leave their spell choice up to random chance. It's a fairly common magic item to begin with, just in sort of the regular tournament meta, from what I've seen at least. I take it on every list I make just because there's a few stinkers in some of the spell lores, and the way the game is, you kind of need to ensure you get the spells you need for your army. Otherwise, like it can drastically change just your ability to win games. So I understand why the spell familiar is there that often, especially with how like important magic is in the game right now.
yeah.
War Banner, we have 7 of those, so almost every team took one. Oh, sorry, I guess you guys should chime in as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on those. Sorry, the spell familiar. I think its stock is way up after the nerf to the lore familiar. And I mean, it's cheap and it increases your odds mathematically of getting the spells you want. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I'd take it if it wasn't my army. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's available to like 3 or
yeah,
4 different
yeah.
armies. So
Yeah. War Banner, we have 7 of them, so almost every team took one. Again, that's kind of one of those key power items that you see a lot of lists taking just for that extra bit of combat res. So not
my
a
personal
surprise
favorite is
there.
Blonde with the War Banner. I was very confused by that one.
That was an
What?
interesting choice for sure. Yeah, We'll get to we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Yeah.
Okay. We got the ruby ring. Also 7 of those, so that one also makes sense. Just having a nice little 25-point pocket fireball, especially on fast cap chaff units, if you're able to do so, is pretty sweet to have. 7 charm shields. That one's weird to me.
Yeah.
That's the 5+ once per
Once
game.
a game. Yeah.
So
I'm also slightly surprised.
Bretonnian exiles love the charmed shield because you just need the one ward save usually to get to the point where you can earn your blessing back.
Sure.
And I think a
That-
lot of those charmed shields, if I remember correctly, are in those 2 exiles armies.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Still
So-
weird to me, but you guys do
Yeah.
you, Bretonia, like fuck.
Yeah.
Then we have 6 talismans of protection. Honestly, I thought there'd be 8. Like,
Yeah,
doesn't
I'm
every
shocked.
army
Yeah.
doesn't every army want a talisman of protection? I figured that would be like the big fight on these teams of like who's gonna be the guy who gets to take it, but there's
Yeah.
only 6, so there's 2 teams who are just like, fuck it.
Yeah,
But
well, I
there's
mean,
also- There's also
if
stuff.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's also stuff like the white cloak or
Yeah.
miscellaneous armors that are gonna give you that benefit. So
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say like so your for instance like there's a few factions that don't need it, like Warriors of Chaos, for instance. They're all packing they're all packing their inbuilt ward saves, and then like Ryan was mentioning, a lot of factions have their knockoff. We have the Talisman of Protection at Home item, like I don't know, Tomb Kings has the Warding Splint, which is like basically a Talisman of Protection. So
Well, like even like my dark elves though, they have their own version of it. The oh, it's been too long. I want to say the shield, but it's not. Anyways, it's the one with the like if it's strength 5 or above, it's a 4-up ward. If it's strength 4 or less, it's
the
a
better
5-up
prayer of the
ward.
lady. Yeah.
Yeah, but I take that and the Talisman of Protection in my list all the time because it's like cool. I get 2 now. So again, I'm still surprised
But,
we're
like,
only seeing 6.
like at the same time, like playing Bretonians for the last year and a half, I think I've taken a Talisman of Protection once. Like
Yeah, all right, fair
Yeah,
enough.
because your army comes with ward saves. Well, not in exiles, but generally.
conditional and a whole bunch of
Yeah.
things. But yes, like
Yeah.
it's enough that I don't need to spend 30 points on one ward save.
Sure.
Sure. Then we have 6 lore familiars. Sure. Again, it's kind of the used to be good, still is pretty much, but I understand that, like just what the way magic is.
Yeah.
And then 5 fucking falcon horns, cause fuck you, flyers.
People. Because people. Yeah.
Cause people. Probably one of the best magic items in the game, falcon horn.
Yeah.
Just for the sheer chaos it causes to, armies that rely on flying, which is quite a few of them, turns out.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of flying hammers in this game. Yeah, I think
Hey.
Falcon Horn is like if your opponent does not modify their deployment and playstyle as a result of the Falcon Horn showing up, it's like a fucking game winner on its own.
So
yeah.
the fact that there's only 5 falcon horns and only one allied detachment that exists for the sole premise of bringing the falcon horn is actually shocking to a segment of the community that exists.
No.
Um,
I mean, the
Like,
way this works out is every
player segment.
like when I wrote this tournament pack, there were people who were like, every allied detachment is going to be Bretonians bringing a falcon horn.
no.
So the fact that it's not is actually interesting to me.
Yeah, it's not worth 500 points. Like let's be real here. Yeah.
No,
I mean,
and for clarity, the minimum is 312 points.
okay,
but-
sure. It's not worth 312 points. Like in that discussion we were having a few episodes ago, like how high does this thing need to go for it to be balanced? The answer is not 312 points. Okay, cool. So yeah, those are our magic items, and then right after I left it off the list, but the banner of Shalom, where you can't stand and shoot, is also super popular. Bretonia just has some good items. Anyways, cool. Just a few other fun random stats for our listeners out there. So if you out there think that this is the dragon meta, well, you're not entirely wrong, but you're not completely right either. So out of 32 lists, we have 21 dragon equivalent type mounts across all these players. Some of them are doubling up, of course. So you're looking at probably 15 discrete players that took dragons in some way, shape, or form. So around half the lists. That is very, very close to what we see in singles events. I remember when we discussed SBOT in Toronto and when we discussed CCBB, it was around 50% also. What I think is an interesting number. So if you think out there that Hero Hammer is the name of the day, I think you're probably more correct than if you think it's dragons, because out of 32 lists, the average player took 863 points of 1,000 in their character slot. And that's accounting for the fact that the two Expeditionary Force armies basically have no character slots because of how they're built. So, realistically, you're looking at about, for your average player, 900 points in characters. So that is an interesting metric. And then if you think that level 4s are ubiquitous in the game, you're not wrong, because out of 32 lists, there are 33 level 4 casters and only 2 level 3, and we have 2 exiles lists, go figure, 6 level 2s, and a single level 1 caster. So before I move on, any thoughts on those fun stats?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
All right. I was slightly surprised to see it as high as 863, or probably 900 realistically, but it is what it is. Okay, let's move on to the list review. So the way that we're going to do this is we got 8 teams to go through. So one of us is going to lead off. So the first team, Ryan will take it, and basically Ryan's going to nominate one unfortunate soul out of those 4, and we're going to discuss their lists. We're going to go, what are our thoughts on the list? What improvements will we suggest to the list? Do you think it's a cohesive list to bring to the table? Competitive list, if you want. What are some of its good matchups and weaknesses? So, Ryan, if you could pick a team from, a member from the 10 from the back team to kick us off, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to stick with what I know, and I'm going to run through their Bretonian Grand Army list.
Perfect.
So we're rocking a Duke on a Hippogriff, Barded Hippogriff, with the Mantle of Damsel Elena, Gormro helmet, and the Virtue of Heroism, and a lance. So very, very typical. A Prophetess, level 4, Royal Pegasus, Prayer Icon of Quenelles for the bonus Dispel range, Sword of the Stout-Hearted, plus your strength if you -1 immune to psych, and Illusion, the Green Knight, a unit of 10 Mounted Knights of the Realm with the War Banner and the Antlers of the Great Hunt so that they move through cover, a unit of 36 Men-at-Arms. Good God. 4 Pegasus Knights with the Banner of Shalom, and a unit of 5 Grail Knights, and the champion of that unit has the Falcon Horn. Okay.
Ooh.
So this is an interesting. So, I get where they're going with this, which is, you have a prophetess with an escort of Pegasus Knights. They're going to go somewhere. She's going to use the illusion spell that gives 2d6 hits with her strength 5 AP -1 attack. I see this a lot with the Sword of the Stout-Hearted. I don't get the choice of the Sword of the Stout-Hearted versus other magic weapons. Strength 5 AP -1, even with 2d6 hits, is not that interesting to me. Sure. 10 Knights of the Realm's gonna do something. But like the men at arms are there to just get chewed through. Like it's 193 points. It's going to take forever to die. Interestingly enough, doesn't have a banner, even though their banners don't give up points. And also, Kevin, when you shortened this, did you remove?
Yeah, I did. So when I was shortening it, I like removed stuff that's basically always taken. So what were you talking about?
Well, no. So it says yeoman and grail monk, but whether the grail monk has
Blessed
the
Trippage. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, whether he has that or not actually matters significantly to the efficacy of this unit.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Okay, so cool. They got stubborn, but they don't have a banner. Interesting. Again, they're a tar pit. They're a pain in the butt, but without the banner, they're less tar pity than I think they hope to be. Um, but they exist. I also have reservations about the 4 Pegasus Knights, mainly because all the character protection rules tend to hinge around having 5 models in a unit. So if you only have 4 and you start getting shot at, you're not. Has that been FAQ'd? Is that unit strength or still models?
I
I'm
believe
blank.
it's the models. Yeah.
Yeah, so if it's 5 models, like if a cannon goes straight through your prophetess, she's not getting look out, sir. She's eating the cannonball. So on and so forth. So that's a dangerous number of Pegasus Knights, my opinion. But like the Duke on the Hippogriff, it's gonna do Duke on a Hippogriff things. Like it's gonna show up, killing blow / monster slayer some stuff. Like it's a fun unit. I do love me a Hippogriff. The Green Knight's gonna bad touch some people. I honestly like, as Kevin knows, I don't get the hype around the Green Knight because my Green Knight seems to just show up and then promptly die and then never come back. Or get into a 5-turn like slap fight with a Wyvern Black Orc War Boss.
And lose a wound a turn. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then again, like the Grail Knights, max respect on 5 Grail Knights. Using the Grail Knights as a caddy for the Falcon Horn, I'm also not sold on. But given how the army is structured, I don't know where else they would have put it. So the fact that it's there at all, sure. Um, like, will it work? Yes. Do I see a lot of kind of counterplay to it that it doesn't have responses to? Absolutely. But that's it is. But at the same time, like if you can line up the Pegasus Knights with the Prophetess and the Duke to like hit one unit at the same time, they're gonna hurt stuff. So
Yeah. It's Bretonia. Yeah.
that's all I got.
Awesome. I have a few thoughts on this list. So just a quick correction because for our listeners, I provided the guys with like a short form document to make it easier to read. So there may be some mistakes because they don't necessarily understand my short form perfectly. The Men at Arms did have a standard bearer. I just removed all the full command and I left the
Okay.
yeah. And anyways, that was a me thing. So yeah, Eric, we know you have a banner on those guys. So as far as my comments for this list go, I have no major issues with the with what's in the character slot. So often you'll see more than a single Duke. You'll like see a paladin running around also as part of like the infernal death bus of Pegasus Knights, which you don't hear, but that's totally fine and like a personal choice. I'm cool with it. I think the unit of 10 mounted Knights of the Realms is too big. It's 300 points. it's a big for something that's not very hard to kill. So I think this one's a bit of a risky prospect, and it would be 300 points that I would try to go pick up almost immediately if I were facing this list. 36 men at arms. I mean, I prefer them as yeoman guard. This'll work, I guess, but they're not obviously not as good as yeoman guard for that role for basically the same cost. Peg Knights, for exactly the reasons Ryan was hinting at, and also because it's essentially your only hammer in the army. I'd like to see more than 4 Peg Knights in here. I think your sort of more standard Peg Knight bus that you see in competitive Bretonnian lists is more like 6. So yeah, maybe I would change that. Banner of Shannon is a pretty meta pick, though. I'm not too surprised to see that. And then I'm not convinced at all by the Grill Knight choice actually to be carrying the Falcon Horn around, because that's what they're doing. I think there's cheaper ways to do it. Perhaps Eric just wanted to bring Grail Knights, and that's cool if it's the case. But yeah, and there's kind of a counter synergy here where you don't want these guys fighting now because they're carrying the Falcon Horn. So yeah, it's I'm not convinced. And Grill Knights are not in a super good place. I mean, 5 Grill Knights are basically the same cost as 4 Peg Knights. So I'll stop there because I think that sells the argument pretty effectively. Andrew, any thoughts on this list?
No, you guys covered like the main ones. Again, like the weird standout to me is the small Grail Knight unit. It's kind of too small to be effective, and they're basically just a huge horn caddy where it's like you could have done that cheaper. I'm fine with like the big block of Knights of the Realm or whatever, because sure they're easy-ish to kill for some armies, but other armies I think are still going to struggle with their high armor save, their high mobility, and it's going to hurt when that unit hits. At least like elf level character or models and stuff.
It
Anything like
gets 2 more
toughness
attacks
3.
than 6 Knights of the Realm.
Okay, but still, it's still pretty good. At least I think it is. So, yeah, that's kind of the only things that kind of stand out to me. The rest of it's just like, oh yeah, typical Bretonnian shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
depending on how he runs like the Peg Knights and stuff, like he might be able to get away with not having the full 6 just because they're so damn fast anyway. Like it might not, I think he's counting on it to not really just matter. But I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think this list, like, it's totally serviceable. No issues there. Bretonians are pretty lucky in that they don't have many terrible matchups. This is not the hardest balls to the walls version of what you could bring in a Bretonian competitive list, but it'll work through most things out there anyways. So cool. I want to move on to the next one. Andrew, why don't you pick somebody out of the next team, which is 1 second.
Atomic Death Squad.
Yeah, exactly.
So I picked BJ's list just because when reading it, I was like, what the fuck is going on here? So he's taken the dwarves. On his list, it doesn't say if he took the sub factor, but I assume we did to get all of this.
It is the expeditionary force.
Okay. So for a character, he just took a bare bones dwarf engineer with pistol, and that's his general. Then he took dwarf engineer sapper with handgun and the master rune of bursting flames. So the one that turns into a small 3-inch template, correct? When it hits on his handgun.
That sounds right.
All right, good chat, guys. Then he took 2 units of 10 rangers with great weapons and crossbows. Awesome. And then it gets really crazy. So he took a squad of 2 scout gyrocopters, and then another one of 2 scout gyrocopters, then a unit of 4 gyrocopters with steam gun, and then 2 units of 4 gyrocopters with brimstone guns, then 2 more scout gyrocopters just for good measure, then 2 single gyro bombers with clatter guns, and just to round out the craziness, 2 organ guns with whatever function overform does. I've never read that rule actually.
It means that they lose the move or shoot rule, but they lose a toughness.
Oh, okay. Well, so he's going to be moving with his organ guns and shooting. Amazing.
And they're still
yeah.
six.
So that's a ridiculous amount of flying gyro things. And I have no idea how he's going to win games other than just somehow playing dwarf avoidance with rangers and flying gyrocopters, which sounds amazing to me. Yeah. What do you guys think of that list?
Ryan, you want to take it or?
Yeah, sure. So I love this. Like, this is the reason other people invented the rule of three. Um, conceptually, like the fear of 8 billion gyrocopters, I think was one of the first reasons that anyone ever argued for the rule of three. Which I realize he still has 3 of everything, but whatever. At the same time, having played into Cleary's version of this, if it gets paired into any of the armies with the falcon horn,
Yeah.
It's
real
fucked.
awkward, really fucking fast with all these gyrocopters that basically can't move.
Yeah.
It'll be like Dwarf Pearl Harbor.
Effectively. So, like, at the same time, too, like, a lot of this is only very good into, like, lower toughnessy things. Like, it's high volume, moderate strength. So this will
Yeah.
also have difficulty into um anything that like skews hard into like high toughness or things like that. I actually just really want to see Cleary's dwarfs fight this
This is
somehow.
an almost mirror match.
It's just cannons versus organ
Yeah.
gun that gets weird.
Yeah.
But like this is when I talked about teams like and bringing out skew because of teams, like this is a quintessential example of like what that means to me. So I appreciate it.
Kevin?
Yeah. On my end,
Speechless.
first thing I will say is, congrats to BJ for bringing a like a massive skew list to this thing. The Flight of the Valkyries dwarf list, like that's ballsy. I like it. I think there's going to be a few issues. Like the first thing that comes to mind is so the Master Rune. I think I was muted earlier, Andrew, and I tried to jump in to give you a life jacket there. But basically, the Master of Rune of Bursting Flame is that each hit you successfully land becomes 2d3 hits, and then you resolve 2d3 wounds. So
Okay.
it's like
So
the first half of the it's the first half of the machine gun dwarf engineer or thane. Sometimes it's actually more often seen on a thane, and the other one but he's kind of missing the other half, which is the rapid fire rune. So that's definitely something I would find the points to take just to maximize how effective that guy is. Or the Thane. I would probably convert it to the Thane actually. Rangers are fine. Like all the gyrocopters is all good fun and games. What I'm gonna say though is like I think this list will struggle because there is no high strength attacks in any of this. Probably you would have been better served with cannons rather than organ guns for your artillery, just because most armies out there will have T6 in some way, shape, or form. And then, all the clatter guns in the world probably aren't going to be doing much against the, save stacking dragon running around. But, a few cannons will and will impact how sort of it plays the game. So, it could be this will be a really tough list to pin down for the opponent if the pilot here doesn't want to get pinned down either. So it'll be interesting. This is really matchup dependent. So let's hope the pairings go well. As Ryan pointed out, if BJ lines up against one of the five Falcon Horn players, that's going to be a really rough match really quickly. And any army that tends to have a lot of high toughness, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of fast moving units will be also kind of a rough one. So, yeah, good luck. Good luck to our friend here. This is a fun list for sure. Okay, I guess I'm next into the third team, which is Cats of War. So we've talked about this a little bit. We have one player out of the 32 who took an allied detachment. We're gonna review player number 4 on the team, which is Sean's High Elf with Bretonnian allies list. So scroll down here. Give me a sec, guys. All right. So this list is a Prince on Star Dragon. This is I'm going to say a most common build of the Prince on Star Dragon, packing a great weapon, a dragon helm, 2 opal amulets to basically resist cannon shots effectively, or slices from the ogre blade, the Seed of Rebirth for that 5-up region save, and the Talisman of Protection for a 5-up ward save, as well as the Pure of Heart Elven Honor, which is almost always taken with this guy. He has an Archmage on his steed with the silvery wand, for an extra spell. Also Pure of Heart, and he's Battle Magic, which I'm going to assume is for Arcane Urgency primarily in this case. Although Fireball never hurt anybody, but yeah. Arcane Urgency.
So many people, Kevin.
It hurts. Yeah, sorry. It hurts the enemy, but nobody was ever hurt by having Fireball as a spell, is what I meant. Then we have 2 units of Silver Helms, both packing the Ring of Fury on the champion. Unit of 6 Illyrian Reavers. In order to resist fireballs, they have the Lore Master's Cloak on the Harbinger, which is a really cool name for unit champion. And then a unit of 7 Sisters of Averlorn with the Ruby Ring on their end. Lothern Skycutter, and then the allied detachment of 498 points with a Bare Bones Duke, 249 point Duke. That is basically just a great weapon, and the Falcon Horn, 10 Peasant Bowmen, which I don't hate in general, and then 8 Mounted Knights of the Realm. So yeah, I'm not particularly in love with this list. So I guess the best way for me to illustrate this point, and hopefully this works, it's always dangerous when you're recording something on air, but Ryan, if I were to ask you in this list, what is actually doing damage to the enemy, what would your answer be?
The dragon.
Okay, good answer. And what is actually
its rider? Just
the dragon. Perfect. That's a good answer. And then what is survivable in this list?
Also the dragon.
Exactly. And that's sort of the point that I want to make here with this list is basically when I was writing my notes, I described it as Star Dragon. The list is Star Dragon plus Falconhorn, basically, because and it's a case of all the eggs are in a single basket. And I think potentially in order to bring the Falconhorn almost just shy of 500 points there, a lot of other elements were pulled out of the list, which I think will hurt it when it gets to the table. So you don't see, for instance, the big block of Sisters of Averlorn, which are such a staple of high elf competitive lists. I don't think 7 is enough, even with the Ruby Ring. You don't see a secondary, utility / beat stick character. For instance, you sometimes see people use Griffins are like a common way to do this. You can also have an Archmage on a chariot with illusion, is something I've also seen. But there needs to be at least a second, hopefully more damage dealers in this list. The Naked Duke probably I don't think is going to do it. And then I've already discussed how I feel about Silver Helms on this show before. I feel like they're worse Knights of the Realm essentially. And the Ring of Fury is good. Like Hammerhand is decent, but it's all in all, it's not enough. It's a case of too many eggs in one basket. This will pair well into lists that are like your take all comers lists that don't have a really good answer to like the Prince. But as soon as there's a matchup where somebody can deal with it, and I understand that the Falconhorn prevents like its natural predator of the Chaos Dragon from catching it really easily, but like there are still other ways to handle this Prince in the game, whether it's through something like Vile Tide, whether it's through some other source of Monster Slayer, Bretonians have tons of them, for instance, whether it's through avoidance, because last episode I was talking about a game that I had against Danny here locally, who had a high elf list with a Prince on Dragon, and I just ran around it, and I like it's only a single piece, right? It's easy to maneuver around if you know what you're doing. So for all those reasons, I think it's this one's a bit of a miss for me. And we had the discussion: how expensive should the Falconhorn get? Not that expensive. It's not worth that much. Okay, that felt like it was a big bashing on the list, but like I hope you do very well, and I think there's some good elements here, and it'll win into a lot of lists. Like the Star Dragon does carry a lot of weight, but we are placing a lot of weight on its shoulders here in this list. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like again, I think the only real efficient damage output is the Prince, like you said, which is fine because when you look at everything else, it's very fast. So almost everything is mounted. The sisters usually hug the backfield anyway. So I think there might be a lot of avoidance built into this list, and that's why he's just going to probably be trying to preserve points with all these cav units, and then just have sort of the dragon focus on any sort of real dangerous stuff that would be able to reach out and touch these things. But they're all small blocks of cav, so I think he might be able to get away with just kind of avoiding the combats he doesn't want. Again, Silver Helms aren't the greatest, but if he's going for that all cav core, like, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, that's it. And because of he does have the Falconhorn, so any sort of like fast flying armies or enemy dragons, like, he's gonna be able to dictate how and when he faces those elements in his enemies or in his opponent's armies. So
yeah,
I don't think it's like amazing, but I can kind of see where he's going with it, and I think it still will work pretty decently if he gets the right matchups.
Yeah, it's matchup dependent, and I guess I understand your point that because it's fast, he could sort of stick away from combats that he doesn't want to take on that cav. But like the Knights of the Realms and the Silver Helms don't have skirmish, so they're harder to keep safe for sure. But let's say he does keep everything safe and away, then it kind of feeds into the point that I was making, that you only have 600 points of your army that's effectively contributing to racking up score, if the other 1,400 points is trying not to get killed. So yeah. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this one?
So I'm gonna tell you exactly how this is gonna get played from observation. And it's gonna do exactly what you said, which is everything's gonna play keep away while the dragon picks away at anything that's not the main threat in the other army until it's amassed enough points to mathematically win the game, and then we'll continue playing keep away until the game ends. It didn't need the Falconhorn to do that. It didn't need to spend 500 points on a Falconhorn to do that. Also, why a great weapon on a lance?
Yeah.
Just wasting the Duke's ridiculous initiative. But I will say, I will differ from you, Kevin, in this respect, is of all of the things that could be 515 points of the core of a high elf army, if you're going for mobility of sorts, 12 Silver Helms and 6 Reavers, or some combination of those two units, is probably better than Spearmen and Archers.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
Yeah, I
like it's one of
agree.
the things, like Silver Helms compared to Knights of the Realm are not good. But in an army where your choices are Silver Helms or not Silver Helms, like what the fuck else are you gonna do? Um, I'm
Yeah,
also confused as to why one unit is 187 points and the other one's 175.
it's probably when
Um,
I removed some unit upgrades probably in the short format
okay,
of it.
cool. Um, but it's either that or else just spam a ton of Illyrian Reavers. But
That's what
like,
I would do, frankly. But
but
yeah,
they're
I guess
also bad.
yeah, my point is less that the Silver Helms are a poor choice. My point is that there's nothing except a prince there, right? In order
Oh, no,
to do
and that
damage.
yes, no, that's what I'm saying is like if those 500 points that weren't tied up in an
Yeah,
allied detachment in order to bring a 40-point magic item weren't there, you'd have double the number of Sisters of Avalorn,
yeah, maybe more.
probably
Yeah,
another Sky Cutter or some Bolt Throwers, maybe a tertiary character of some kind,
yeah,
absolutely. And like, don't get me wrong, a Naked Duke is still like a threat, but it's not a significant threat. It's a threat to like moderately annoying things.
yeah,
Um, so it's
yeah. And the other thing is yeah. Anyways, I'll stop there. Yeah, I think we've discussed
yeah,
this one.
but like having observed where this army comes from, um, the dragon is the army. That's the
Yeah,
entire
yeah,
play.
exactly.
And like Sean, I'm sorry if I am ruining how you play your army for the rest of the universe, but that's what I've witnessed. That's what other people have witnessed is the dragon does the game winning and the rest of the army just exists to stay out of the dragon's way.
Yeah, I mean that only works until you match up against something that could deal with that, right? Um, but
Correct. Like 6 cannons to the face.
yeah, what
Um,
about an army that's packing 6 sources of screams in vampire counts? What about yeah, as you mentioned, 6 cannons?
yeah,
What about a big poison shooting block? What about and the list goes on,
I mean,
right?
like
Um,
we can do that to whatever. But I'm just telling you is like I agree with a lot of your criticisms, but I'm also just telling you exactly how this
yeah,
army is going to play, and it's
sure.
going to be the dragon will tactically eat things
Yeah,
while the army plays keep away.
yeah. That's
Whether
what
that
that's
works
what
out or
dragons
not,
do.
that we'll see the day of.
Perfect.
Uh,
Okay, I think it's back to Andrew now for the Green Mountain Boys, team number 4.
I think that one's me.
It's you? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was you first. My bad. It is you, Ryan.
We're going to review the only Lizardmen army in this entire tournament because Lizardmen are cool.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, so this is the updated version. Go. So quick run through here. We got a Slan, who's the BSB with the War Banner and also has the Ruby Ring and has 5-up regen and Necromancy. I didn't even know you could take Necromancy. That's cool.
Yeah,
Then we got a Thoris Old Blood on foot with the Ogre Blade, a shield, and a Paymaster's coin. And I assume that's the general. Um, and a Skink Priest with battle magic, also on foot. In core, we got 11 Temple Guard, 10 Saurus Warriors, 10 Skirmishers with Scouts, 12 Skirmishers with Scouts, 10 Skirmishers. And then we got 2 Bastiladons with Sun Lasers, 5 Cold One Riders, and an Ancient Stegodon with another Space Laser. Um, so ultimately, this looks shockingly like the army that I played against at Capital Seed Bloodbath last year against, I believe, the exact same player, which is cool. So, do Slans come with higher state of mind, or is that an upgrade?
I'll need to double check. Keep talking. I'll double check for you.
Yeah. So anyway, so what you've got
The
here
Slan
basically
is the general, by the way. I'm looking at the main list.
what is sorry?
Yeah,
The
Slan.
Slan is
Yeah,
the
he is the
general.
general.
So this land can't be the general if it's the BSB.
I think they have a special rule where they can be both. Maybe while Kevin's looking, he can look that up as well.
Sure.
Interesting.
Because in previous editions, that was also the case.
Okay, let's not get bogged up here. Yeah.
Anyway,
Keep.
carrying on. I've not seen that special rule, but I believe it might exist. Sure.
Higher state of
Anyway,
mind is an upgrade. It's one of the
okay. So
disciplines. So the
it's not.
disciplines of the old ones, you always get those, and higher state of mind is a 60
So
point up.
it is not ethereal. It just has a regen save. Okay.
Yep.
So like it's gonna do Slan stuff. That's cool. Saurus Old Blood's gonna do old Saurus Old Blood stuff. Like Saurus Warrior attacks. You're stuck with it. The Temple Guard's there to soak hits for the Mage Priest. I get it. The Skink Skirmishers are gonna cloud all over the place and be annoying. And then you've got your 3 space laser dinosaurs that are a pain in the butt to kill and hurt stuff with decent strength. And you got Cold Blood Cavalry. Like it's the army does all the things, you know, within the limitations of being a PDF army. I like it actually. Like I think it'll do well. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of criticism of it. It's got all the things. It does stuff. I like it.
Yeah. Was it Andrew? Why don't you go next?
Yeah, I like it. Like, Lizardmen struggle in the current meta just because they don't have like a big dragon equivalent. They don't have really good cav or flying cav and things like that. But this list kind of has its own inbuilt answers to everything. So again, Slan Mage Priest, um, really good wizard right there. So he's got his level 4 ready to go. Source Old Blood. No mount, eh? Weird.
No. Yeah.
He's probably with the 11 Temple Guard.
Weird. Okay, I was gonna say like that's his kind of dragon equivalent answer, but now I'm not so
No,
sure because usually he should
not.
be on the T-Rex.
The Carnosaur. Yep.
That's the one. Ah, so weird. Okay, anyways, he's got the little skink priest. I don't know why. But I
He
guess
can be
he's
used
the fireball.
as a line of sight for the Slan for
Oh, cool. They
spellcasting.
still got that rule. Wicked.
Yeah.
Temple Guard again to sort of, I think, shield the Slan Mage Priest. So they have that rule where they could still tank hits for him.
Correct.
Saurus Warriors, yeah, you have to, so I get
Yeah.
it. And then he's got his Skink Cloud, which I think that's going to be doing a lot of the work.
Yep.
Javelins and just being not able to be hit or caught or locked down. The Bastillodon laser battery. I don't know. It's okay.
It's fine.
It's not going to do. Yeah, it's fine. It'll do some work. It'll do no work, depending on matchup and game.
Yeah.
Cold
And
One Riders.
it is a bound spell too, right? So there is that. You got to
Yeah. So
But it's also on like a toughness 5 3-up armor monster that is a pain in the butt to kill.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I think then the next one's harder to kill. T5 3-up. I mean, it's gonna give it a 5-up save once you're actually whatever hit it that has AP2, probably a great weapon is done with it. But yeah,
Yeah, then he's got the agent's tag it on, so like that
yeah,
that's more decent. The Cold Riders are they're okay, but stupidity really hurts them.
yep.
Um, but yeah, like I think
And they're expensive as all get out, eh? Like almost 200 points for 5 cold ones.
I'm
I
confused
mean
as to what the benefit of one Engines of the Gods is.
It's none. Like the rule doesn't trigger. You need two. So like
Okay.
it's a bound short range fireball, like actually, and then just a big dinosaur.
But then why pay 25 points for Engine of the Gods?
That is
it
an
fucking looks
excellent
cool, bud.
question. An excellent question to get the fireball.
To get the fireball. Yeah. I
Are
don't know.
they
Like I think he'll be okay for the
okay,
most
yeah.
part,
So it's a
but
formatting in the PDF part that's just a pain in the ass to.
Yeah.
I think he'll be okay for the most part. Again, matchup dependent, but that we can say that for every army here. Um, from what I remember, he's also a fairly decent player. So obviously, he probably knows what he's doing with this. I think he's been running
100%.
this list or um, a version of this list for a while, so he knows like its inherent strengths and weaknesses. Um, so we'll see how it goes. Kevin, are you ready to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm a little bit I'm slightly less positive than you guys are on this one. I have some questions. Like the first one that springs to mind, like in in this army, the Saurus Old Blood looks like it would be your hammer to be able to deal some damage and pick up some points left, right, and center. But unfortunately, it's on foot right now, which means that either it's not catching what you want it to catch, or it's getting caught by things that want to catch it, which is unfortunate. I think it has a fantastic mount. I really like the Carnosaur. It's strength 7. It's actually a really decent combat piece in an army that doesn't have a ton. So leaving it at home for me is a bit of a question mark, especially when, for instance, there's an ancient Stegodon, which is also toughness 6 and definitely doesn't have nearly the same combat power as an Old Blood with an Ogre Blade, a Paymaster's Coin, or alternatively the Blade of Tsunki could do on a Carnosaur. So that one is a bit of a question mark for me. I think a miss, and I think player will be missing having that big combat piece in his army for sure, considering that there's like 21 dragon equivalents running around in this event. Um, Next up, the Slann Mage Priest. I'm not entirely sure why he went with necromancy, why he chose the war banner in this case, because there's no units here that are like you can't join a unit under this construct of the rules, and there are no units here that really would have massive combat res anyways. What's that, Ryan?
Oh, I was
Nothing.
just going to say that, yes, I looked it up. Confirm the Slann can be the general and the BSB. It's buried in the
Yeah, the little text there.
text
Yeah.
of the BSB box in the corner of the army list.
Yeah, perfectly fine. I'm not sure about the war banner pick though. And then necromancy for me is like a bit like I was talking to Danny last night about this, and we were sort of wondering what the play was here with necromancy because like maybe some people don't realize, but like the actual resurrection spells are in like lore of what is it called, undeath or lore of vampires, not in necromancy. So like invocation of Nehek. So there's no actually resurrection really happening with necromancy. So I guess he can reduce leadership of of the enemy, but I don't think that's it's probably not the best bet for him. Skink skirmishers, yeah, take them, take as many as you can. They're fantastic. I played against a pair of Bastillodons with the solar engine. I think they're completely fine. Just like fine. Just bring them. And then the Cold One Riders and the Ancient Stag, like for combined almost 550 points. I'm not entirely sold on. So I think this army will struggle into anything that's packing like that big sort of that big heavy hitting dragon type character. It will struggle into anything that does threat overload. So like we skipped it, but for instance that Knights of the White Wolf list, like threat where everything is a small hammer, will be difficult to deal with this army for sure. Anything, shooting will be a big problem. So gun line, we know we may cover another list later that has 6 cannons in it, will be a massive problem for this list. So yeah, anyways, I think this one has a lot of bad matchups, and then I'm sort of wondering what the good matchups for this are. And I struggle to find any. You guys could help me if you can think of some really good archetypes of lists that this can play into. But yeah, I think it's Lizardmen are in a rough place, and not bringing the Carnosaur doesn't help.
Does the Swan have a lore familiar?
He does not.
Oh, I was gonna say, oh, like Spectral Steed is like the only spell that's like standing out to me here.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have a lore familiar.
Interesting. Anyway, having
Yeah.
played the guy, he is clever. But I totally agree with your concerns.
Yeah, and then you know what, like maybe they've got some team strategy going on, and his role is different than what I'm envisioning for this list. So, and as by your own like experience, he's a very competent player. So like I'm sure he knows what he's doing too. This sounds like I'm bashing people, and I promise I'm not trying to do that. Okay, let's move on to the next list. The next team, which is FFS. Andrew, you want to pick a member from that team?
Yeah, I picked Ryan Burton, the Beastman player. I picked it only because he named all of his characters and units after rock songs.
Let's go.
So we're gonna go through that. So for characters, he's got a great Bray shaman named Rasputin, lover of queens, which is I forget the band. Anyways,
Boney
doesn't
M.
matter.
It's Boney M.
That's the
Yep.
one. He's got the Bray staff. He's a level 4. He's the general. He's on foot. He has elementalism, Ruby Ring of Ruin, and the Hig Tree fetish. Pretty classic loadout for a Great Bray. Then he's got Jeremy, the speaker in class. I think that's a Pearl Jam reference. He's also got a Bray staff. He's also a level 4 on foot, lore familiar, and elementalism. Yuck. Then he's got Dr. Robert. I had to Google this one. It's a Beatles song. He's a level 2 wizard, Bray Shaman. On foot. Got the Jagged Dagger and Demonology. Then he's got Stompin' Todd, which I assume is Stompin' Tom. He's a Wargore. He has a shield. He's a BSB. He's on foot. He's got Pelt of the Dark Young and Gnarled Hide. He's just got a hand weapon and shield. Then he's got Tom Sawyer, which is a Rush song. That's his Gorble. Amazing. He's got a great weapon, no armor. Oh, sorry, he's got armor, the armor of meteoric iron, talisman of protection, and slug skin, which is gross. Then he's got, for core units, Tom's Company, which I assume is just where the Gore Bull is going to go. He's got hand weapons, additional hand weapons on them, the True Horn. That's the character, or the sergeant. Standard Bearer Musician. The Standard Bearer has Totem of Rust, which is a nice item. Then he's got the Teenage Dirtbags, which are an Ungore herd. They have short bows, and then full command. He's got the 6-inch nails, which are another Gore herd. They have additional hand weapons, ambushers, and then full command. Great weapon on the sergeant for some reason. I guess just for that little extra punch. For specials, he's got two single dragon ogres. One's named Robert, the other one's named Robertson. They have great weapons, and they're both the sergeant upgrade, the Shard Tax. Finally, he's got a tragically hip reference in his rares. Grace 1 and Grace 2, which are single gigantic chaos spawns. Both with Nurgle, and then just stock standard. So, this is cool. I like Beastman lists, and he's got kind of the power pieces you want. So he's got like that really tricked out, well, I guess not super tricked out, but like very strong Gorbel, which is going to do quite a bit of damage. He's got the two gigantic chaos spawns, which are just horrifying to go up against, especially the Nurgle ones. The two single dragon ogres, which are basically chaff, but also are able to take and put out a lot of damage. So those are very efficient in there. The core is a bit of a, I'm not sure about. Like he's gone heavy into gores. I would have assumed like maybe because he already has the Gorbel and it's got a camp somewhere to take just like a small Minotaur unit, so you got like all that damage output from them. But I guess he has a plan there. And then he went magic heavy, so you know the two level 4s and a level 2 support wizard. Just really good all around. No hag tree fetish though, which is weird.
He does on the first caster. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't screw up all the way. So yeah. So, you know, he's got the power combo there, like set up to go. Then, you know, he's going to be able to deal with those big dragon units. He's going to be able to sort of blast away the smaller chaff units. He's got his own chaff, which is really efficient. He's got those big the big chaos spawn, which are able to just kind of last forever and lock things down if he needs to. So he has all the tools here. Yeah, I like this list. I like all the music references as well. I think that's hilarious. What do you guys think?
Ryan?
I agree with Andrew. I like a lot of this. I'm surprised the 42 Ungors don't somehow have poison banner.
Yeah, they do. So
Like-
Stompin' Todd, the Wargore, is packing the BSB's packing the vitriolic totem.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so he's gonna go camp out
Yeah,
there.
so
and
he's
just
gonna
shoot
go
him.
with that. Okay, that makes sense. But I saw the exact same thing Andrew did immediately, and I'm like, these references are top notch, and I appreciate all of it. But yeah, it's very typical Beastmen. Like it's all the things that a Beastmen army needs: 2 level 4s, your hag tree fetish, your elementalism, etc. So I don't see a lot. I'm actually not like I've run into some weird situations where I'm no longer sold on singular dragon ogres that are Shartax. Just where you get into a weird situation where something challenges you out and just like completely neuters your single dragon ogre. But to each their own.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. I think my major issue. I'll get to in a second. Actually, I'll talk about some more generic stuff before I get to this. So, I like the magic that's being brought here. Of course, you know, Vile Tide and Hagtree Fetish is one of the key pillars on which competitive Beastman rests, and will do very well into all the potential Vile Tides actually here will do very well into lists that are banking on a single monster to carry them through the day. Not that we've seen any of those in the event, of course. But yeah, so I do like that. I would prefer to see the Hag Tree Fetish guy on a chariot personally, just to give him that extra toughness and give him that extra mobility, because again, that combo is so potent that you want to make sure you're in range to cast Vile Tide on whatever needs to be Vile Tided, because it's pretty key to the game plan otherwise. Aside from that, I'm fine with the other two casters. It's good that he doubled up on elementalism, just to make sure he gets travel mystical pathways to help around, to help that block of Ungors, of shooting poison shooting Ungors, travel around there and actually land their shots on stuff. So I'm buying what he's selling on that one. Aside from that, I prefer the Gorbel with the Bedazzling Helm for -2 to be hit in close combat. I think when you got a character that packs as much punch as a Gorbel and is -2 to be hit, it's a really, really nasty piece to deal with. Because basically everything in the game then is hitting you on 6s. I think 2 units being the exception, and that's like the Bloodthirster and Ungrim. But yeah, basically everything is hitting you on 6s, which is wild. So, anyways, moving aside from that, my main issue with this list, and is something that Andrew pointed out, is I think it's kind of being pulled in two directions. Unfortunately, I don't think this is a fatal wound. Like, the list doesn't fall apart, but you do. So as far as competitive Beastman lists go, you kind of see three things. You see the Chariot spam list with like screens of Ungors and Chaos Hounds. You see that like a list that's built around the poison shooting mechanic, which this one does have, and then you see a list that's like a big gore brick, or a series of lists or whatever, they're an archetype. The big gore bricks with Doom Bulls, a Doom Bull inside, and then just like attendant pieces. So in this case, we kind of have elements of the Ungor shooting brick and the like, just the big gore block with the gore bull. And I think trying to get both those elements in has kind of sucked some points away from the list. And has pulled it, like, as I mentioned, in two different directions, and has kind of caused a situation where our guy here, Apala, has left a few elements that would have been useful off the table as a result, right? So, Dragon Ogres, I think, are well known to be one of the most efficient units in this game, and just having two is potentially not enough. I think you probably want more in a Beastman list. So if you weren't supporting those two different units in core, you may have the points to do a unit of 3 or maybe a unit of 4 or 2 units of 3 or what have you, which I think would be better overall. And then Razor Gores also are like just a really strong piece in Beastman lists that I don't see here at all, and that I'd like to see. So yeah, I guess that's my main criticism. It'll, as we mentioned, it'll pair super well into anything that's like relying on a single piece to do all the work, for sure. It'll pair well into like your your general take all comers type lists. It'll do it is a slow list for sure, especially because there's no chariots or anything, so it'll be in a bit of a rough spot against gun lines. Yeah, I'll stop there for now, but those are my thoughts on this one. Any last minute points?
I think though, like the two single dragon ogres are taking the place of the razor gores, right? Like if it was me running this list, those two would be acting as chaff, not as like a dragon ogre block getting a bunch of damage. And because they're so efficient, like you can send them into some of the bigger units. Like say Tom's company, the Gore Herd, gets locked down. These guys can come in and, help get like a flank attack or something and kind of save the day and help push like the combat res too. So like I don't think the single Dragon Ogre units are as bad as you think they are.
Yeah, I don't think they're bad by any means. I just think that, like, if for instance you shave off some supporting points for the Gore Herd and the Ungor Herd, and just pick one of the two, like combine those two Dragon Ogres, or leave one on its own to do that role, which I'm completely fine with. But then having that, like 3 or 4 Dragon Ogres with great weapons, for 210 to 280 or 300 points or what have you is such a massive hammer, and they can do so much work, and they're so resilient that it's just always worth it to have those guys rocking around in the list. And then the thing with Razor Gores is they bring that speed element to an army that doesn't have much of it, and are just really, really effective, like on the flanks and just causing a ruckus and being an annoying piece that your enemy needs to deal with that are not worth a lot of points. So that's why I value them. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to I guess Motley Crude is next. Who's doing Motley Crude? That's me. Okay, that's me. Let's do Danny's Warriors of Chaos. We haven't talked about Warriors of Chaos at all today. So scroll down to this one. A sec here. All right, so the Danny's Grand Army Warriors of Chaos list is first of all a Chaos Lord on Dragon, the classic Chaos Lord that you sort of see everywhere, with the Ogre Blade, Mark of Nurgle, the Ogre Blade, 3 Favor of the Gods, the Brazen Collar, and Enchanting Aura. So what that gives you, everybody knows what the Ogre Blade does. It's like quite a staple competitively. Favor of the Gods obviously lets you re-roll your Gaze of the Gods. Brazen Collar is Magic Resist 2, and then the Enchanting Aura gives your enemy strikes last effectively. So this is the premier beat stick in the game right now for 627 points. Then he has the quite common the Sorcerer Lord on Chaos Steed with Market Siege. That's carrying the Infernal Puppet, which is just an incredible magic item that forces your opponent to roll 3 dice when they roll to cast and discard the highest. He's in Battle Magic, which is a good choice here. He has the Spell Familiar for an extra spell to get 5. He also has the Brazen Collar, Magic Resist 2. You don't always see that, or even really often see that on Sorcerer Lords, but it's Magic Resist 2 is just a good pick in general, so I'm not too bothered by it. Then he has in core something which is I will say unorthodox, but having spoken to him, it was an issue. Those are the models that he has. He has a unit of 10 Chaos Knights. They are Mark of Chaos Undivided, and have the Icon of Darkness, which is -1 to be hit from shooting. 2 units of 5 Chaos Warhounds, which are pretty common. 7 Chaos, Forsaken of Slaanesh, which are just a very, very good competitive piece. They get Swift Stride from Slaanesh, so yeah, it's all good stuff here. They have the single Dragon. He has the single Dragon Ogre Shartak. Then he has that big block of 4 Dragon Ogres with great weapons that I mentioned in my previous sort of intervention on Beastman, and then the single gigantic spawn. So this is overall, and it's not because I used to be part of this team where I had to drop, but I think this is a good list. The Chaos Lord will do work, obviously, and he has for so many players out there, and he will continue to. The Sorcerer Lord is such a staple. Unfortunately, I would have liked to see the Sorcerer Lord have a bunker to get that +1 to cast from Mark of Tzeentch, like a unit of Chaos Marauder Cav. Mark of Tzeentch would have been great. And also give him some ablative wounds and stuff. It's just going to be, he's going to be at a bit of in an awkward position inside the Chaos Knight unit, because he won't want to charge the Sorcerer Lord in, but he's kind of going to have to if he wants his Chaos Knights to fight. So probably the play here is to have him on the outside of that unit. Aside from that, everything else is pretty staple of this kind of list. The Chaos Knights are probably taking the spot of 2 units of Forsaken, extra units of Forsaken, which I think would be would be an improvement, but there's like a model availability here. Overall, this will do work. It's like the natural predator of all other dragons out there, and basically every other single thing in the game, like taken individually. So that's helpful. Like the magic is fantastic on this with the especially with the infernal puppet is like a game defining item. So I don't hate it at all. Again, like the counter meta pick of a big gun line will be really hard for this dragon to deal with. For this list to deal with. Sorry. Otherwise, a good list that has a lot of little hammer bits is going to be rough to also rough-ish to deal with for this one. So, anyways, those are my initial thoughts. What are your thoughts on this one, Andrew?
Yeah, I think you covered it. Like this, the only real sort of standout, I guess, stinker is the Chaos Knights. But I understand why it's there. Again, to be sort of the bodyguard unit for the Sorcerer Lord, but otherwise everything else is sort of what you would expect from a chaos. Excuse me, like a meta chaos list. You know, you got your dragon, you got your chaff warhounds, you got your, your decent sized squad of dragon ogres. The chaos, yeah, the gigantic spawn of chaos.
Yeah.
With Marker Nurgle again, like that's the power combo there. So like he has all these good pieces, and I think he's gonna do pretty well with it. So yeah, not much to say here.
Awesome, Ryan.
It's not demons. Um,
Yeah.
sorry, just Danny and
We
demons
owned
have
other
gone together
armies.
as long as I have known Danny, which is about as long as I've known Andrew. Less than I've known
Yep.
Kevin, apparently. But
Yeah.
um, but it's just one of those. Like again, it'll do stuff. It has all the things. I probably wouldn't have spent 20 points to go from Magic Res -1 to Magic Res -2. But I also don't know what else I'd do with 20 points. So, on the Sorcerer Lord for reference.
Yep.
But again, he has the models he has. It makes sense. It's going to do stuff. It's been my experience that one giant spawn is no giant spawns, but he also has a dragon, so it's probably taking some heat away from the giant spawn.
Yeah, it will. It will.
That's it.
Yeah, I didn't mention it earlier, but poison shooting blocks are also an issue for this kind of list. Okay, let's move on to team number 7, and that would be back to you, Andrew, I believe.
Yeah.
The
I was
neckbeard
gonna go
sweat
with
slayers, yeah.
yeah. I was going to go with Jason Hutchison, but we just did a Beastmen list, so let's take a look at John. Yikes! I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that
Natinchuk.
name.
Yeah.
There we go. Thanks, guys. Because he's got the
Hey,
orcs and goblins, and we haven't covered that yet.
Perfect.
All right. I actually haven't read this one in advance. Well, I have, but not today before the episode like I did the other ones. So let's go into it. So for characters, he's got the Black Orc War Boss. He's the general. He's on a wyvern. He's got the Trollhide trousers. He's got a potion of toughness, a charm shield. What? And the choppiest choppa. He's got the Orc War Boss. With great weapon, heavy armor, also on a wyvern. Gross. Trollhide trousers, effigy of Mork, and another enchanted shield. Oh, that's the one I was thinking of, not the charm shield. He's got a Night Goblin Odd Knob. It's upgraded to be a level 4. He's got the Ruby Ring of Ruin, Idol of Mork, and he took Wa Magic on that. Then he's got a Night Goblin Big Boss. He's the BSB. He's on foot. And other than that, he's basically naked. Then he's got 18 Black Orcs. Full command. 10 with shields, 8 with great weapons. And full plate armor. I'm not sure if it's an upgrade for them.
no, they come in
Holy
full plate.
Jesus. Okay. Then he's got 45 Night Goblins. Hand weapon, short bows, 3 fanatics, obviously. And then full command there with the spider banner, which I assume gives their shooting poison.
Yes, it
Correct.
does.
That's gonna be nasty. Then he has 5 boar boys. With just the champion. Cavalry spears, heavy armor, shields, and biggins. Then for rare, he's got a mangler squig and 2 doomdabber catapults. That is his list. So it seems like the main core of the army is going to be that big block of Night Goblin fanatics with poison shooting, and then he's got the 2 orc war bosses on wyverns, and they're there to not die and just hold a bunch of points with their trollhide trousers and light ward saves. Yeah, this is the type of list that my dark elf doesn't like. My dark elf army doesn't want to fight. So big blocks of cheap dudes that'll take forever to cut through. But then also 2 really big, tough flying monsters, which are gonna probably they would lock down my dragon. So yeah, this is like not the same, I guess, meta orc lists we were seeing sort of at the beginning of the edition, where people were taking minimum Night Goblin units, but like full fanatics, because now you need a certain amount to get the full 3. But for me, like, this is still pretty nasty. He's got the Doomdiver catapults to keep you from sitting on the backfield, so you do gotta kind of move forward a bit. But he's got all the fun toys that orcs have, so I think it's a good list. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I could jump in here. So I think this is a good list. I agree with you. I mean, it wouldn't be fun if I didn't say anything. So I will say a few things. So I like the Black Orc War Boss on Wyvern. I run it in my army basically every single game. So I think obviously it's a good power piece in this army. I've run this exact build of it before without. I prefer the Enchanted Shield for always a 6-up rather than against non-magical rather than just the 1-5-up. But I mean that's like the smallest of kibbles, so that's fine. The second Orc War Boss, I think, also works as like a second sort of power piece to throw around. But I'll get back to him later. -1 to hit in close combat is nasty, and he's like on and he gets a decent armor save, a 5-up regen, and a 6-up ward, and that's fine for most things he's going to run into. Then he has all the supporting pieces for like that sort of that Night Goblin mob, which I'm which all work, except I think we are missing a key element here, which is another elementalism caster, because Night Goblins are probably the most effective shooting spam block in the game, but you need travel mystical pathways to get the full value out of that, and make sure you're not caught out of position where you can't shoot all your poison shots at whatever the hell it is that needs to get killed at that moment. And TMP is really the way to do that. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the caster for it. I think it would be really helpful to have it in the list. It's probably my biggest issue with this army. I mean, you can still make this work, of course, and hope that your enemy flies into range of your or comes into range of your poison shooting. But I think that part is, for me, is a bit of a miss. And then I like everything else that's in there. I mean, boar boys are great in general. I'm not sure 5 boar boys in this army alone is enough, but whatever. That's that's another minor thing. I guess if I was taking a crack at this list, I would potentially consider dropping the second orc war boss on Wyvern to get more of that fantastic utility that orcs and goblins has. as an army. So to get that elementalism caster with the lore familiar to move the block around the poison shooting block, because that combined with Itchy Nuisance is such a potent combo, and Plague of Rust from that elementalism caster just really ups the damage output of those night goblins. So I would go for that, and I would probably toss in more random movers, because Orcs and Goblins has so many fantastic random movers between another Mangler Squig and some Squig Hoppers that I think would potentially maybe align with this list a little bit better. But overall, like, I agree with you, Andrew. I think this is a good list. I don't have any major issues with it, aside from the elementalism bit that I discussed. Ryan, what's your take?
Well, in Kevin's world, the best version of this list is just Chris Allen's army, um, which
Oh
is
yeah, it's on another team, right?
he's not on any of the teams, but
Oh,
you've
okay.
seen the pictures of me playing him, where it's just 2 units of Squig Hoppers and like 60 Night Goblins
Yeah,
and all of the attendant magic that you're calling for.
yeah.
Um, but no, like I like this, but I'm gonna echo your comment from the Beastmen army earlier, that what John seems to have done is smashed two different orc archetypes together
Yeah.
in a way that might not be synergistic.
Mhm.
Um, but that still might just have the rote to like what it doesn't accomplish through finesse, it accomplishes through sheer brute force and ignorance. Um,
And we're talking
like
about the Orcs here, not poor John.
correct. Although he is an engineer, so it's fine.
Fair.
Um, but at the end of the day, like 45 Night Goblins with a Spider Banner and 3 Fanatics is gonna do stuff. Like even if it's not as mobile as it could be, it's gonna do stuff. Especially if the wizard gets, I want to say it's Bad Moon Rising, whichever the one that makes them reroll ones and become AP -1. It's also helpful.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
like the 2 Wyverns is going to be super annoying. Um, 18 Black Orcs is not, the funnest thing to fight your way through. Um, but no, and like you're absolutely right. Like I would have loved to have seen some Squig Hoppers in here. Maybe a Goblin Shaman with the elementalism, absolutely.
Yeah,
But
or those very cheap Night Goblin bosses on giant squigs are also super effective pieces.
yes, but I guess what I run into is like when I see Black Orcs, I'm like, they're here to quell impetuosity, and then nothing else in the army is impetuous except maybe the
The
Boar
war
Boys.
boss.
So
Okay.
they're not like playing together. So it's just like you have 2 units. They're gonna do stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't. Again, and I'm like, there's also limitations on like what people own and everything else. But I
Of
think
course.
the army makes sense. It'll do stuff, and it definitely just throws problems at the opponent. Like
Yeah.
you have to kill 2 bosses on wyverns. You have to kill 18 full plate black orcs. You have to kill 45 night goblins. Um, while getting catapulted in the face and dodging mangler squigs. So I think it'll definitely um, be a pain in the butt to play against,
Yeah,
which
and
is
I think that's the
exactly what it's
value
going
of
for.
Orcs and Goblins, especially in this kind of construct. Is it's such a good toolbox army, and you can bring so many things to the table in an Orcs and Goblins list. Like I've said this before, I think it's the biggest sleeper army that the people are like forgetting from a competitive perspective. And you mentioned it, man. Like Doom Divers, they wreck, like everything in this list is useful in a lot of ways, and will be hard to deal with. Like it throws everything in the kitchen sink at you, and there's not a lot of armies that have an answer to everything. So it's yeah, I think it works. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on to our last team, which is square based. and that's
Yeah.
you, Ryan.
So I'm going to review Pete Colosimo's Mortuary Cults because we haven't looked at a Tomb King army yet.
Perfect.
So, yet another person I've known almost as long as Danny. Um, and so he's rocking a High Priest who's level 4 with Illusion and the Serpent Staff, the Warding Splint, and a Lore Familiar. And then another level 4 High Priest with Elementalism. A Mortuary Priest who's also the Battle Standard Bearer. Level 2 Elementalism and the Amulet of the Serpent to give a unit poison attacks. And that unit's going to be 50 Skeleton Archers.
Yeah.
Jeez. Then he's got 5 Skeleton Skirmishers with Warbows. 3 Tombstorms. 6 Ushabti with Great Bows. 2 Necrosphinxes. 3 Tomb Scorpions, 2 of whom are ambushers, and a Casket of Souls. So this army is just 50 poison archers and magic with some stuff happening around it that you're also going to hate. Like every part of playing into this army is just going to be hate. Like there's no yeah, this is pure violence. I love it. But yeah, you're gonna have 50 skeleton archers teleporting around the battlefield, just deleting whatever they choose to shoot at that turn, while you have Egyptian rock monsters jumping around, murdering things. It's gonna be cool. I very much like it's unorthodox compared to the typical um mortuary cult kind of or Tomb King metagame, but it has all the parts like killing 50 archers, basically not going to happen. Um, those 50 archers probably have another 500 points worth of characters bunkered up in them. So that's 750-ish points that you're probably not going to be able to get unless you manage to like fix the unit, charge it, declare a challenge, and somehow kill the Hierophant. Um, yeah, it looks like an army that just makes problems that other people don't have answers for, which I appreciate. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. This is a perfectly serviceable Tomb Kings list, and Tomb Kings have a deep bench, a really good bench of units that they're bringing to the table. A lot of which you see sort of in this list now. There's like a few small things that I would say, like it's getting pulled in a few directions that are like nothing fatal here. Like so you.
I don't
Like
think it
typically,
matters in this case.
yeah, typically what you see though is like you'll either lean more heavily into the Ushapti and then have the dragons for your high priests to sort of is as like a very common and good competitive list, or you'll have the massive skeleton block, but it's typically more than 50. Now he's doing a little bit of both, which is fine.
But it doesn't
Um,
need to be more than 50. Like
uh,
42 mathematically deletes basically anything.
well,
And Invocation of
I'll need
Nehek's
to.
gonna keep it alive.
Yeah, so the Arise or whatever Arise, I think there, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, but the issue now though that you have to consider is once these guys are in the block, like my other concern is the High Priests not being mounted, like makes the Hierophant much more targetable, and as like a Tomb King opponent, that's the first thing I want to see is a Hierophant that I can kill to sort of crumble it all, and then you'll tell me, yeah, but he's in the block, which yeah,
Yeah.
agreed, makes it harder to target. However, once that block gets charged he can't resurrect anything once you're in combat, right?
Yeah.
So that could be problematic. Like again, I don't want to crap on this list because I think it totally works. I do prefer, if I'm a Tomb King player, to have double Casket of Souls, because those things are just so good and annoying to deal with. And I'd probably take it over the second Necrosphinx. But I like this. As I mentioned, it's perfectly serviceable. There are no major issues. A little bit of being pulled into, like, it's not the most potential optimal build, but it'll
But like,
work.
I don't see what directions it's being pulled in. Like, compare this to Cleary's nonsense Necrotect block army, which is the same thing. It's a giant block of infantry with a couple Necrosphinxes and a couple Tomb Scorpions running around the flanks.
Yeah. So okay, let me put it to you this way: would you rather face this, or would you rather face two high priests on the bone dragons? Pump up the number of Ushaptis there. Give me double casket of souls. Give me a catapult to go along with them, and be annoying. Reduce leadership. Like, which of those two lists would you rather face?
I'd actually rather fight the second one. I'd rather fight
Yeah, same.
two very expensive
100%.
monsters and some Ujabti and two
I
caskets
disagree,
instead of
man.
Yeah,
50 skeleton archers.
I'm going
yeah,
to disagree with you guys
you're wrong.
on this one.
But
Yeah.
we also play massively different armies, and I think that's part of where that comes from too. Like 50 skeleton archers, even once I get a charge into them, continues deleting my knights.
And like,
Even in close
how are you
combat.
going to get to
Like
them to begin with?
especially when they also teleport.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, he's dry rolling on that one. He put the lore familiar on the illusion caster, but like, again, I
Sure.
don't disagree with you guys that this is good.
Yeah.
I just think there are better Tomb King lists out there.
I don't disagree with you, but
Not by a
also if
huge
we're going down that rabbit hole, the majority of the lists in this entire tournament are junk compared to better lists available on the internet.
Yeah, and then that's that's fine. I
Like,
mean,
that's just what I'm getting at is like, it's a
and that's
weird
what
criticism to bring up in Team 8.
Yeah, no, but that's what I led with, right? When I said at the beginning of the show, like, I think the lists are softer than I anticipated, and here's a number of reasons why I think that could have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of where I was coming from on that one. But yeah, no, I think this is a very serviceable list. I have no major issues with it. I'm just yeah. Anyways, I've talked about it. We can move on now. Andrew, did you have to? You've already went. No, you want to go on this one?
Sure, it's the best list we reviewed so far. Kevin, you're
Yeah, I would
wrong.
agree. I would agree. Um, okay, let's move on then to the next bit. Let's talk about. Okay, first things. I'll start with you, Ryan. Are there any lists that we haven't talked about yet, and that you'd like to shout out for whatever reason? It could be like, you think it's just a fun concept or build, and or a specific person that you want to shout out or whatever.
Of course, Cleary's ridiculous 6 cannon for
Oh, you
Doomseeker
took mine.
fucking dwarf nonsense. Love that. Also a great shout out to the Empire army that features 47 free, whatever they're called, free guild militia or whatever.
Yeah.
Where'd it go? Here we go. Yeah, we've got Sigmar Pope on Pope Mobile. And then just a lot of priests of various gods, and
Yes.
then a shit ton of free company militia, 23 state troops with crossbows, 2 mortars, and 2 war wagons. Possibly meta-defining choices right here. It's a fascinating army that I just am actually excited to see how this works, because I can't conceptualize how it works. And then lastly, the other one that I really like is the like all frenzied orc army. Just like all savage orcs.
Okay,
I
so
forget where it is. Yeah, I'm too tired to keep scrolling.
that's fine. Shouted out all the good ones. Yeah, I was gonna shout out the
Yeah.
Savage Orcs. I love it. It's I don't know how good it'll be, but it's gonna be fun. That's for sure. We haven't reviewed any vampire counts lists. There are some fun ones in there for sure too. So yeah, no, I think I'll save it at that. I just wanted to give a shout out to the chap who decided to bring all the Savage Orcs. It was like a cool thing. Andrew, any ones that you want to shout out?
No, Ryan took mine. It was Cleary with his 6 cannons because that's ridiculous.
Perfect. Okay, let's go on to the question that everybody's wondering now. We'll start with you, Andrew. What are your 3 teams that you sorry you think will podium and why?
Well, first off, it's probably going to be square based. All of their lists are super hard, and they have a Shane, so I think they're going to do pretty well. Looking at the rosters, probably also Motley Crude, not just because they're named after the podcast, but they all have fairly decent lists, and at least in our meta, they're all pretty solid players as well. Who is it? And I think we're gonna see 10 from the back also do well. That's the like the Quebec crew, and again they have fairly decent lists. And I know they play like a shit ton of games in their area. I think they're out of Quebec City, or Three Rivers.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to also do very well just because they're all very competent players. I mean, all these teams are kind of stacked, but I think those are the 3 that stand out to me. In what order they'll podium, I have no idea, obviously, but I think my money would be on either Square Based or the Quebec guys.
Awesome. That's a good spicy prediction there. Ryan, what are your predictions?
I'm gonna echo some of that. Like, I definitely see Square Based or Motley Crude being in those top 3. I feel like somehow they're gonna knock each other out in some capacity. And then my kind of runners up to that are 10 from the back and the Green Mountain Boys. I think the guys from Vermont are gonna bring some interesting perspective
Yeah.
to this.
If I had to pick a 4th team, it would have been the Vermont guys as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I sort of agree with you guys, but not entirely. So in order, I think Square Based is going to take the event. I think they'll finish first, and the reason for that is they have 4 excellent lists that they're bringing to the table. Like they're all just really solid lists. The chaos list is as cookie cutter competitive chaos as you could ever imagine. The green knight, the exiles list is Exiles is an excellent platform off of which to build, and he has Shane has all the parts that you'd expect to see out of that one at the top tier level. So I'm definitely rooting for that one. And then the vampire accounts. I mean, vampire accounts are another great toolbox army. Between like a hard hitting block of resurrecting blood knights, between the screams, between like the unkillable zombies and grave guards, like it's a good toolbox army to bring to a team event. So I think because the lists are super solid, because they probably have one of the top 10 players in the world, I would say, on their team, and then 3 other guys who are varying degrees of solid at the game. I think I think they take it. Second, I would place probably FFS as my second team. We haven't talked about them a ton this evening, but they do have some solid lists there for sure. Brett Gutterson, who we know well around these parts, is a really, really solid player who's a, let's say, a bit of a faction expert on vampire accounts and who can really do wonders with that list. He has a really good vampire accounts list. Also, I don't hate the their Tomb Kings list is leaning a little bit too hard as far as I'm concerned in the mission pack, but like it'll work. They have a solid Brett list that I really like also on the Exile side. It's the second Exiles army, and I think it's a really good one too. So no major issues there. And then the Raymond Beastherds list we reviewed earlier, which was being pulled in two directions, but had all the right tools regardless. So I'll put FFS second, and I'll put Motley Crue third. I think they've also got a good slew of lists present here. We've talked about so Danny obviously is bringing the major pieces that you need to kick butt with Chaos. There's a massive skew list in Cleary's all cannons all the time list, which I've played against and is an annoying thing to deal with if you don't have the right army for the job, and most people won't have the right army for the job for sure. There's that one. Nick is an excellent player. He knows his Tomb Kings very well. I had some discussions with him about his list. It's a good list, so that's good. And then we have Brett, who took over from me when I couldn't be there anymore. So thanks for that, buddy. I was a bit of a newer player, but the guys have coached to help him out. So that should be good. So that's my podium: Square Based, FFS in second, and Motley Crue in third. Okay.
Cool.
So let's close this out. Okay. So I don't have too much to shout out here. So I wish everybody attending the event a good run. I'll try to show up for the social after because it's here in town, and I'll know like most of the people realistically who are at the event. So I'll do my best to be there, and then I'll be at CTC after. There's still some tickets for CTC 2 weeks after the GT that's being run by Danny, friend of the podcast and recurring guest host. Those are my shout outs. Ryan, what about you?
You pretty much covered it all. Like, thanks for listening, and I'm excited to help Andrew run this event in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Andrew.
I got a weird shout out. It's to everyone who signed up and is attending the event. Again, this is our first year running Old World, so it's pretty awesome to see, a sellout and all these people coming from all over to help support the event and come have a good time. So that's really nice to see, and hopefully we can deliver on having a good time for you all. So thank you for that. That's my shout out.
All right, perfect. Thank you for sticking around, listeners, and we'll see you next time.